Bernard says, Michelle, I think that people will be surprised on election day for the support for reform. He says their popularity is being dumbed down by pollsters and the mainstream media, he says. Keep your thoughts coming in, but I've got to say a huge issue dominating lots of the conversation in this election is migration. Labour, they've been accused of having what I would call, well, I directly quote actually, a broken moral compass. This is after Jonathan Ashworth was talking, I would say, a little bit of nonsense actually when it comes to Labour's immigration policy. Let's take a listen.
Most asylum seekers, according to official figures, come from Afghanistan and Iran. You're not suggesting to voters that you'll get a returns agreement with the Taliban and with the Iranian regime.
But we're talking about people like, we've got people coming from Albania, from India, from Bangladesh.
But you just literally ignored the two countries where most asylum seekers come from. Yeah, you're not going to get a returns agreement.
Big proportion is India, Bangladesh, Albania. We need to deal with those
and you're still
countries.
ignoring Afghanistan and Iran. Are you saying you're going to get returns agreements with those two countries?
Well, you look at each one on its merits, obviously.
I mean, come on now. Absolutely ridiculous. You said that one of the reasons you have decided to donate to Reform is their stance on things like immigration. When you hear the Labour Party, they've got this plan and it's all about smashing gangs, creating return agreements and all the rest. And I would say that Jonathan just didn't answer the question because he couldn't, because he must know when he looks in the mirror that standing there and talking about, yeah, I'm going to do this really awesome deal with the Taliban, he must know that that is absurd and probably not going to happen. Mm-hmm. Do you honestly think that any party can stop these boat crossings now?
Well, yeah, as somebody who's built a business, I believe that most of these problems that I see in the political arena are actually problems of bold leadership and a lack of courage from political leaders. You know, we have an amazing Royal Navy, who carry out humanitarian operations all over the world. We are paying £500 million to France in exchange for them stopping these boats. They're completely stopping. They're obviously not doing that. My view is that what Reform's policy, I think Reform's policy it makes a lot of sense. Essentially, it says we will use our Navy to take the illegal migrants who are coming here in boats back to France, which clearly is a safe country, and we will do that in a safe way for their own safety. And I think that the fact that we haven't done that, and we've done all sorts of other things other than do that, is the fundamental problem here.
I know, but Ben Habib, I mean, is he, I don't know his role now in Reform, I don't know if he's the deputy leader or whatever.
Deputy leader, yeah.
Yeah, so he got into hot water because when he was questioned on this policy before, quite recently actually, the host was putting to him, would you just let people drown in the Channel? And he got a lot of criticism because that was what the suggestion was about Reform's policy. Is that the policy?
I would not have donated money to Reform if that was their policy. That is not their policy. The policy would be to, in a safe manner, which our Navy is more than capable of doing, and has demonstrated that time and time again, taking them back to France. Essentially, we need a deterrent, right?
Why is France going to let you do that?
Well, the reality is we have to... So firstly, the legal advice that the Reform Party has received from well-qualified lawyers is that international treaties allow us to do that. Might we then have a pretty challenging conversation with France about that? Probably. What else are we going to have a challenging conversation with France about other than maintaining our sovereignty and the integrity of our border?
Aaron?
On the case of Iran, I think we should end sanctions on the Iranian government, and I think we should try and normalise relations as best as possible. Iran, I'm half Iranian, is a fabulous country, fabulous people, highly educated people, amazing natural resources. It should be an extraordinary success story. Now, part of its failure, and the fact it's not, is down to the regime, of course. Part of it is about the sanctions. And I find it bizarre, I say this almost every week I come on, that we have sanctions designed to destroy the Iranian economy. That's the point of those sanctions. And then we're upset when people leave the country. So I think in the case of Iranians, the first thing you should do is at least try to create an element of economic normality with that country. I understand that's complex, but it's a big part of that. And with Afghanistan and the Taliban, I obviously don't think we should be returning people there, no. I do think we should have a diplomatic presence there, though, and I think we should be trying, again, to
So hang on, let me
work towards that place becoming a more normal country. It's a supremely dysfunctional, abnormal country right now, but one day it might not be.
You said that you don't think that we should be engaging with returns to Afghanistan. Why not?
Well, I think it's a supremely unsafe place for many people, particularly women, particularly minorities. Hazara, for instance, there is ethnic cleansing there, very well documented. I think, you would struggle to find many countries, actually, worse than Afghanistan with regards to...
So are you saying that we should accept the majority population of Afghanistan then?
Not necessarily. Look, you've got a suite of options there. You might say you do a deal with neighbouring countries. For instance, Persian-speaking Afghans can integrate very well into Iranian society. You might choose to do that. Or in Pakistan, right? You can create economic incentives for that. Europe as a whole might wish to do that. I'm not suggesting it's one or the other. What I am saying is that Afghanistan, for many people, is a very unsafe country. I'm personally in touch with an Afghan woman presently living in Pakistan. She's an academic. She's a feminist. I don't think Afghanistan's a very safe place for her. That's what she says to me. She doesn't want to live in Afghanistan. She was in Pakistan. She was happy in Pakistan. Pakistan's presently in the process of getting rid of Afghan migrants in that country. So I don't think it's an either-or. I think you can create...
But we need to be realistic, though, don't we? Because most people that are getting on these boats, they're not the kind of females that you're describing, who, by the way, I'm not disputing what you're saying. I personally would not like to be a woman in Afghanistan. Thank you very much. But that's not who's getting on these boats primarily. It's young men that think Afghanistan's so awful that they're willing to leave all their family there.
Well, that's for the Home Office to adjudicate. But what I would say is there are men who are Hazara, there may be men who are homosexual, there may be men who aren't Muslim, they've maybe converted, and you might say, well, that's not many people. I mean, we can, again, have that conversation. But there will be men who come to this country who are genuine asylum seekers, many men, who are genuine asylum seekers, and who genuinely should not be sent back to Afghanistan. Now, we have a range of options. You mentioned France, maybe Iran, maybe Pakistan. But I think sending people back who say, my life is in danger if I go back, and they have good reason to demonstrate that, I think it's very dangerous to send them back to somewhere like Kabul.
But you will say, for example, and you just did say, that if someone is, for example, homosexual, then they are at risk because of the Taliban. I don't dispute that, by the way. But then you open the door then to all kinds of people just saying, you know what, I'm gay and I can't go back. What's the Home Office going to do? They're not going to follow them to their bedrooms to check what's going on, are they? So therefore, that then becomes a massively abused excuse.
Well, like I say, you've got a suite of options, and I think Afghanistan is probably the country where this is somewhere I would absolutely draw that red line. So in the case of, for instance, Iran, I think you can have more ambiguity there. But with regards to the Taliban, look, we don't even have a diplomatic presence in the country right now. And by the way, very quickly, the Labour right fascinate me because 18 months ago you had Labour MPs saying that we shouldn't be leaving the country, we should still have a military presence there, it's still so evil, we shouldn't be going, even if the Americans are pulling out, we shouldn't pull out. So they were willing for UK service personnel to die in a pointless war in Afghanistan, but now they're saying it's so safe, maybe we can send people back there. Which one is it? Personally, I think Afghanistan is a very unsafe, not particularly nice or pleasant country for many people.
May I just say,
you may,
Michelle, so look, I respect your opinions, Aaron, and you're clearly very educated on those parts of the world. But look, the reality is this is a British general election. You know, we should be talking about what's best for British people of all religions and races. Let's also be really clear. Those of us who do care about the humanitarian plight of the people crossing the Channel, over 200 of them have died, have perished making that journey, and they are being smuggled by illegal gangs. The thing we have to focus on is stopping those boats from coming. And I think a lot of this debate, we conflate two things. The first thing we need to do is secure our border. If you do not secure your border and these boats just keep coming, as they have for year after year after year in ever greater numbers, then your actual immigration policy is actually irrelevant. The second, once we have done that, then we can have an asylum system and then we can decide, look, there's 90 million people in the world, according to the UN, who are permanently displaced from their homes. As much as we'd love to be able to take all of them, obviously we can't do it. So we have to have a coherent policy of legal migration, which has also been far too high. So that's why I think reforms policy makes so much sense, because I understand all of those concerns about returning people to those countries, taking them to France. France is a safe country, that is quite clear, and that's why reforms policy makes sense. We have to secure our borders as a first step.
Zia, many people will push back against reforms policies, and many people will say that they are racist, for example. Now, you yourself, you are from an immigrant family. You know, when people are saying to you that essentially the policies that you're supporting are racist, how do you respond to that?
Well, look, my response is I'm Muslim. I obviously don't have white skin, so I actually know what Islamophobia looks like. I know what racism actually looks like. I know Nigel personally. I've also started a successful business and sold it. So I've become reasonably good judge of character. It's my sincere opinion that Nigel Farage is somebody who cares deeply about the future of the country and wants what's best for British people of all religions and races. And you can see that, by the way, if you actually look at reform support. And I've had a huge number of people reach out to me since the announcement of my donation came out. People of all races and all religions saying we agree with reform's policies. And so, look, too often when we try to talk about these really big challenges that we face as a country, the political discourse descends into name-calling. So there's absolutely no way, and I can, again, as someone who's built a business, if you're unable to even look the problem in the eye, if you're unable to even have difficult conversations, you stand no chance of successfully solving the problem.
And border protection and enforcement of your borders is government 101. I am going to ask both of you this. Why do you think that the government is just refusing to do that?
A lack of courage.
What do you think it is?
There's a part of me that thinks that actually the Conservatives haven't tried to address this problem because for a long time, until Nigel Farage was back on the pitch, migration being a high salience issue 2-3 years ago, they felt played well for them politically. And I think actually they've created the conditions for a catastrophe for their own party.